Who could ever believe it? Deep in the freezing New England woods, a little girl was clinging to her newborn brother, shaking her unconscious mother who'd collapsed behind them. Her alcoholic father, Mike Peterson, stumbled closer, spitting curses into the bitter air. Just when hope seemed lost, a figure emerged. Ethan Walker, a pharmaceutical billionaire, rushing forward, his arms outstretched to shield the terrified family. The cold air gripped the woods off the narrow, winding road. The only sound was the sharp whistle of the wind tearing through the bare branches. In that dark stillness, the hurried, staggering steps of a young woman echoed, punctuated by her ragged, desperate breathing. Lily Peterson, 7 years old, her face wet with tears, clutched her month-old brother Finn to her chest. Her thin arms were trembling violently, but she refused to let go. Lily ran, glancing backward, her heart hammering so hard it threatened to burst from her chest. Behind them, not far off, came the slurring curses and the crash of breaking glass. A male voice, saturated with alcohol, roared, broken yet terrifyingly threatening. This was Mike Peterson, her biological father, the man who had turned their small, fragile world into a living nightmare. What city are you watching this video from, and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. Mike used to be an ordinary guy, a mechanic in Marblehead, but after losing his job and plunging into drinking, he morphed into a monster. Every day was a drunk haze. Every day he looked for a pretext to unleash his rage. The shouts and insults were always directed at Sarah, his wife, and sometimes they reached Lily, forcing the little girl to learn how to shield her baby brother. Sarah, only 28, had given birth to Finn less than a month ago. Her body was frail, her breathing shallow and heavy. She tried to pull Lily's hand, to push herself onward, but her legs were giving out. "Run faster, sweetie," she whispered, her voice shaking in the darkness. "I'll be fine. Don't look back." "Mom, I'm scared," Lily sobbed, her eyes wide, clinging desperately to her mother's cold hand. Sarah forced a smile that lasted only a fleeting second, before her eyes clouded over. They stumbled through the woods until the sky began to turn a pale gray. When the first streaks of dawn filtered through the skeletal trees, Sarah couldn't go on. Her fragile body crashed onto the cold, damp earth. "Mom! Mom! Mom, please. Don't sleep. Wake up," Lily cried, clutching Finn and shaking her mother with her small, trembling hands. Finn erupted into cries, his wails joining his sister's desperate voice, echoing through the empty woods. Lily collapsed onto the ground, tears streaming down her face, holding Finn close. Her lips repeated the same frantic plea. "Someone, please help us. I can't lose you, Mom." That heartbreaking cry traveled to the narrow path leading to a nearby mansion. Ethan Walker, 43, was returning after a long night working in his R&D lab. Ethan was a rich man in the medical and pharmaceutical tech industry, but inside he was an empty soul, drowned in grief. His wife had died in a boating accident, and his only daughter, Charlotte, had passed away from a rare heart condition at the age of 9. Since that day, Ethan lived like a shadow. Work became the only thing he clung to, his heart sealed shut behind layers of pain. When the cries reached him, Ethan stopped dead. He raised his head, listening. It wasn't a casual sound, but the desperate lament of a child. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward the source, his long strides rapidly crossing the uneven terrain. The scene froze him. A tiny girl with tangled hair and dirty clothes knelt beside a motionless woman. In her arms, she held a newborn, his face red from crying. Lily looked up, her tear-filled eyes meeting the gaze of the strange, well-dressed man. She immediately tightened her grip on Finn, shrinking back. "My God, what's going on here?" Ethan murmured, as if speaking only to himself. Lily recoiled, her voice trembling but with a fierce edge, like a small animal defending its den. "Don't come near us. You'll hit us too, won't you?" The question pierced Ethan's heart. For a fleeting instant, he saw the face of his deceased daughter flash in his memory, her eyes overflowing with the same terror. He swallowed hard, then slowly knelt down. He didn't take another step, just carefully removed his expensive Harris tweed coat and laid it gently in front of the girl. "I won't hurt you." His voice was deep and steady, forcing calm. "You can wear this." Lily didn't believe him right away. She eyed him suspiciously, then looked at Finn, who was still crying inconsolably. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing more. Ethan didn't press her. He remained silent, lowering his gaze to show he wasn't a threat. A gust of wind swept the spot, bringing a chill that made Lily shiver. She pressed her brother against her chest, her eyes fixed on the man kneeling before her. In that fragile silence, Ethan spoke softly. "You can trust me. I won't let anyone hurt you." Lily bit her lip and whispered through her tears. "All adults say that. Then they leave us or hit us." Ethan gently squeezed his fist, feeling every word like a dagger twisting in his chest. He took a deep breath, forcing his voice to remain firm. "I lost a child. I know pain. I swear I won't let that happen to you." Lily hesitated, her resistance wavering, though not enough to step forward. Finn's cries slowly subsided into whimpers. Lily leaned in to soothe Finn, her tears falling onto the baby's flushed face. Ethan's hand trembled as he watched, overwhelmed by compassion. Before he could say another word, a hoarse shout echoed from a distance, one Lily instantly recognized. "Sarah!" "Lily, I know where you're hiding." Lily froze, her face draining of color. She gripped Finn tight and whispered in a panic. "He found us." Ethan looked up, his eyes darkening, his body tensing. The voice was getting closer. He knew this chance encounter was about to change all their lives forever. The confrontation at the mansion. Ethan clenched his jaw. There was no more time to think. With a decisive movement, he leaned down and lifted Sarah's inert body from the wet ground. Her breathing was so shallow, it seemed she might stop at any second. He could faintly smell the trace of cheap alcohol clinging to her clothes. Mingling with the forest air, he turned to Lily. The little girl was still fiercely hugging Finn, her wide eyes shining with tears, panic, and deep mistrust. Ethan lowered his voice, forcing himself to speak slowly. "Hey, come with me. Your mother needs urgent care right now. If we wait any longer, she won't make it." Lily shook her head, trembling like a trapped animal. The fear etched in her eyes tightened Ethan's chest. She backed away, holding the baby tight. Her voice was hoarse. "You'll take us back to my dad, won't you?" He'll hit her again. "I don't believe you." Ethan stood still. Her words cut through him like a blade, bringing back the buried memories. His own daughter, before she died, had spoken those same trembling, fearful words, begging him to protect her, but he had arrived too late. That torment reignited, pressing against his chest. He let out a long sigh, then spoke with firm resolve. "No, I won't let that happen. I swear it. I'm taking your mom to a safe place right now." Ethan's gaze was severe, not with hardness, but with the light of fierce determination. Lily stared back. Finally, she nodded slightly, a movement so faint it was barely noticeable, but enough for Ethan to act. He held Sarah tighter and turned to lead the way. Lily followed, her eyes scanning the dark woods, terrified of the voice that still roared in the distance. Every step was shaky but firm, clinging to what felt like her only thread of hope. As they neared the Walker estate, the light from its tall windows spilled out, tearing through the fading night. Lily blinked, overwhelmed. She had never been inside a house so vast and bright. Ethan pushed the heavy oak door open with his shoulder. Inside, a warm, golden light washed over the spacious living room. The scent of pine and traces of rich coffee hung in the air, foreign and unknown to Lily. "Call the doctor immediately. Prepare the medical suite," he barked, his voice laced with authority. The few house staff still attending the mansion sprang into action. Within minutes, a doctor in a white coat and a nurse appeared. They quickly placed Sarah on a gurney, checked her pulse, and fitted an oxygen mask. Lily pressed herself against the wall, clutching Finn, her eyes wide, fixed on every move of these strangers. Ethan noticed her tension. He approached slowly, crouching down to her height, closing the distance between them. You can trust me. Your brother will be safe here. Lily shook her head hard, her trembling lips opening to speak. I can't trust anyone anymore. Adults always lie. My dad promised, but all he did was drink and hit me. No one keeps their word. Her words struck Ethan's chest like a hammer. He remembered his daughter's last night in the hospital. Her look filled with the same disappointment. The same broken faith in promises he couldn't keep. I know, he said gently, letting the heavy air fill the space. But try. Just once. I won't leave you. Lily stayed silent, but the grip of her hands on Finn seemed to relax, just slightly at that moment. The sharp sound of footsteps echoed from the entrance. A middle-aged woman entered, her salt and pepper hair pulled into a tight bun, her eyes sharp as glass. This was Mrs. Eleanor Vance, 65, Ethan's longtime neighbor in Marblehead, known for being strict and difficult. She rarely involved herself in community affairs, and when she did, her voice was often tinged with sarcasm. Mrs. Vance crossed her arms, scanning the room, finally settling on Ethan. Her voice was dry and cutting. Ethan, do you really know what you're doing? Bringing a whole unknown family into your house? Do you really think you can handle this kind of trouble? Ethan looked up, calm and steady. No, I don't know everything. But I know one thing for sure, they need a safe place and I can't turn my back. Mrs. Vance gave a half smile, tilting her head. You always think you can save the world. But remember this, not everyone wants to be saved, and not everyone is truly the victim they claim to be. Lily looked up, her eyes blazing with anger at the strange woman. She hugged Finn tighter and whispered, We're not faking. My mom is dying right there. Mrs. Vance paused, her expression faltering for a second. She glanced at Ethan, then turned to leave. Though her eyes still held something unreadable, the room plunged back into silence, broken only by the steady beep of the monitor in the medical suite where Sarah lay. Lily slumped into a chair, her cheeks tear-streaked, her eyes fixed on the hallway. Ethan remained close, fingers tightly clasped, his heart heavy, but his gaze firm. Suddenly, a violent pounding shook the main door. The entire house vibrated with the force of each blow. Boom! 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 Then, a hoarse voice roared, loaded with alcohol and fury. Give them back, you hear me? Ethan! Hand them over right now. Lily jumped up, trembling, hugging Finn close, her face white as a sheet. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes dark, his body tense. He knew the moment of real confrontation had arrived. The knocking stopped abruptly, but the silence hung heavy for a few seconds. Then the door burst open with such force it slammed against the wall. Mike Peterson staggered across the threshold. The stench of alcohol radiated from him, overwhelming even the scent of disinfectant floating from the infirmary. His face was red, his eyes bloodshot, his breathing ragged, his fists clenched. Who do you think you are, man? Keeping my wife and kids in this house? He roared, his voice rough and torn. Don't let him take us. Lily cried, her voice cracking. She clung to the wall, hugging Finn tightly. Mike's face was livid, his eyes wide with terror. Ethan stepped forward, planting himself firmly between Mike and the children. His posture was rigid, his eyes cold. You have no right to hurt them ever again. Mike let out a harsh, guttural laugh. He pointed a finger at Ethan's face. His voice boomed. I'm their father! Who are you to get in my way? A father's rights trump everything. Give them back. Ethan didn't move. He stood solid as a wall. In his heart, the image of his deceased daughter flashed fleetingly, her scared eyes silently pleading for help. He couldn't allow that tragedy to repeat itself. The wail of police sirens tore the air outside. Blue and red lights swept the windows. Several officers entered, their heavy boots echoing on the hardwood floor. A tall officer raised his hand, his voice firm and authoritative. Mr. Peterson, stop. We received a report of disturbance and violence. Step back immediately. Mike stumbled a few steps, then collapsed mid-room. He clutched his head, breaking down into uncontrollable sobs, his laments echoing through the house. I just wanted to take my wife and kids home. I know I was wrong. I drank too much. But I regret it now. Please give me one more chance. The officers hesitated. A young policeman looked at Ethan, lowering his voice. If what he says is true, we can't hold him long. This is a family matter. The law will have to decide. Lily trembled violently, clutching Ethan's shirt with desperate hands. She hung on to him, whispering in a voice barely audible. He's faking. Please don't believe him. If we go back, he'll kill Mom. Ethan bent down, resting a firm hand on her shoulder, as if trying to transmit his strength. Then he straightened, facing the officers. His voice was resolute. You saw it yourselves. That woman is exhausted, and a child is so terrified she clings to a stranger instead of her own father. That's not a family. That's abuse. The older gray-haired officer paused, then nodded slowly. We'll file a report. This case will be taken to court. The judge will decide custody and guardianship. Mike looked up, tears still streaming down his face, but the corners of his lips curved into a vague smile upon hearing the word court. It was as if he suddenly found new confidence. His voice was alcohol-laden but full of triumph. The court will give them back to me. You won't get to keep them, Ethan. Ethan didn't answer. He stood still, his gaze fixed on Mike's face, a face too familiar, a face that always managed to boil his blood. Inside, a silent vow resonated. He wouldn't let anyone steal the children's safety this time, even if he had to face the entire legal system. The room sank into a suffocating silence. Everyone believed Mike was a poor, unfortunate father. But the truth was far from what they imagined. Before we continue, please take a moment to leave a comment about this story and rate it from 1 to 10. How are you feeling? If there's anything you'd like to share, I'm always here to listen. I hope you find a moment of peace and reflection as you follow this healing story and its journey of courage and justice. When the police left, the Walker estate fell into a heavy silence. Lily clung to Finn with all her might, her eyes wide, still haunted by the image of her father. Ethan stood motionless by the window, gazing out at the dark garden where the police lights had just vanished. Inside him, a fierce determination stirred. He knew the real battle was just beginning. It wouldn't be about drunken fists and angry shouts, but about Mr. Victor Sloan, a lawyer who knew how to twist lies into truth in the eyes of the public. The next morning, a sleek black sedan pulled up to the gate. A young woman, about 32, stepped out. She wore a crisp gray suit, her brown hair neatly pulled back, her face serious, her eyes sharp and alert. This was Ms. Anya Sharma, a family law attorney known for her principle-driven work. Anya was famously direct, rarely letting emotions interfere. Ethan greeted her in the living room, looking exhausted, with deep circles under his eyes, but his voice was firm. Thank you for coming, Anya. Anya opened her briefcase and spoke plainly. Ethan, are you sure you want to go this far? Your opponent isn't just Mike Peterson. Behind him is Victor Sloan, a veteran attorney with deep connections and a history of dirty tactics. Mike has the money to fund this. If you enter this suit, you must be prepared for a long, tricky fight. Ethan paused, hands clasped. He looked towards the corner of the room where Lily was sitting, still cautious, holding Finn tightly. After a long silence, Ethan turned back to Anya, his voice low but steady. I can't walk away. I saw her eyes. I already lost one child, Anya. I won't let that happen again. Anya hesitated for a moment. For the first time, she saw in this man's eyes an absolute determination that left no room for retreat. She gently closed her file and nodded. All right. If you're sure, I'll be by your side. Meanwhile, across town, Mike and Victor Sloan had already made their first move. In a rented luxury photo studio, Mike, freshly shaved and in a clean white shirt, posed next to a child actor hired to play Lily. Victor, standing out of frame, directed every gesture. Hand on her shoulder. Tilt your head slightly. A small, sad smile like a father seeking redemption. Perfect. Let everyone see you as the loving, remorseful dad. The photo, depicting a seemingly warm family portrait, was quickly circulated to the press. A day later, newspapers ran the photo with the headline, "The remorseful father seeks forgiveness. Mike Peterson vows to change for his kids." Ethan crumpled the paper in his hand. His voice cracked with anger. The world out there only sees what it wants to see. They have no idea what truly happens inside that house. Anya calmly collected the paper. The media can be bought, Ethan, but the courtroom is where we prove it. Only there does the truth hold value. That afternoon, a court officer delivered a sealed envelope to the Walker estate. Ethan tore it open, his face darkening as he read the lines. Witness summons. Lily Peterson. Ethan clenched the paper. His heart tightened. A 7-year-old girl would have to face the court, look her father in the eye, and tell the truth. One sentence from Lily could save everything or bury all hope. Mrs. Vance's secret in the garden. A small, shaky laugh drifted on the air. Lily was sitting on the lawn with Finn in her lap. The baby gurgled, his clumsy hands reaching out. Lily gently offered him her finger, allowing her brother to wrap his tiny fist around it. With every innocent giggle from Finn, Lily's face lit up, revealing one of her rare, fragile smiles. On the other side of the fence, Mrs. Eleanor Vance stood motionless. Arms crossed, her eyes fixed on the two children. At first glance, she seemed to be scrutinizing them, judging them. But in the depths of her gaze, something heavy stirred. A flicker of regret and compassion. Mrs. Vance approached slowly, her voice firm, though not loud. Lily. The girl flinched, looking up, her eyes still carrying suspicion. She was used to adults asking and then leaving. Mrs. Vance's gaze drifted to the small arm poking out of the sleeve. A dark bruise was clearly visible on the skin. Mrs. Vance frowned, then asked softly, "Did your father do that?" Lily gasped, quickly pulling down her sleeve to hide it. She shook her head rapidly, her voice breaking. I just fell." Mrs. Vance's lips curved slightly. Her usual smile was sarcastic, but this time, her eyes held no coldness. She sighed, turning away so Lily wouldn't see the pity in her expression. Years ago, Mrs. Vance had lost her only son in a car accident. That pain had hardened her, making her the sharp-tongued woman she was. But seeing the bruise on Lily's arm, memories of her own child rushed back. Later that evening, Mrs. Vance spotted Mike Peterson lurking near the estate gates. He was drunk, staggering, yelling for his wife and kids. Mrs. Vance stepped back, hiding behind a large cedar tree. She quietly took out her phone and turned on the voice recorder. Mike's voice boomed, thick with liquor and rage. "Damn brats! Get out here! Sarah! Lily! Don't think some rich guy is going to save you from me." Mrs. Vance slipped the phone into her pocket, her chest heaving rapidly. She had been silent for too long, but Mike's drunken fury and Lily's fear had finally moved her to act. Ethan saw Mrs. Vance standing by the fence soon after. Her gaze focused on the small family in the garden. He frowned and walked toward her. "Why are you looking at them like that? Does their presence bother you?" Mrs. Vance turned her head, her lips curving into a familiar smile, but her voice was different, hoarse and low. "Bother me? Yes. If I don't do something, who will? People can pretend they don't see, Ethan, but I can't." Ethan froze. He looked into those eyes that seemed cold and suddenly understood that behind the hardness lay a deep shadow of pain. He didn't say anything more, just nodded slightly. The attack and the revelation a few days before the final hearing. Mike tried to break into the property, throwing a dramatic fit that resulted in the police being called again. He was quickly removed, but the stress took its toll. Inside the medical suite, Sarah was struggling. Dr. Fernando Salazar, the family's private physician, checked her pulse. "She has a high fever, Ethan. Her body is too weak. If she suffers any more shock." He left the sentence unfinished. I'm afraid she won't endure it. Lily broke down in tears, rushing forward and clinging to Ethan's hand, burying her face in his coat. Please don't leave us. You're all we have left. Ethan bent down, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. The pain in his chest was too tight for words. Only his eyes and the trembling clasp of his hand gave her a reply. At that moment, Anya, who had been observing the whole ordeal, quickly opened the medical file she had prepared. She sat at a table, flipping page after page. Her eyes stopped on an old handwritten note. Patient admitted with multiple contusions. Diagnosis: domestic violence. Anya flipped through more hospital admission records, all showing the same pattern. Sarah had been treated for injuries on multiple occasions. Yet somehow, those records had been kept out of the legal archives. Anya's eyes burned with determination. Victor Sloan could paint the picture of a remorseful father. But these medical notes were a massive hole in his story. Something Mike never expected to be used against him. That same morning, Sarah opened her eyes, her pupils moving slowly. She focused on Ethan. Promise me, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Promise me you'll raise Lily and Finn as your own. They only have you now. Ethan's heart ached. He held her hand tighter. I promise. I swear I'll raise them as mine. They will never be alone again. Lily sobbed, collapsing onto the bed. I need you, Mom. I'm so scared. Sarah forced her other hand up, trembling as she stroked her daughter's hair. Her voice was fading, but still clear. You have your dad now. Trust me. You won't lose everything. Ethan stood still, his heart shattering as the word dad left Sarah's lips, her final recognition. Her absolute trust in him. The courtroom showdown. The next morning, the Boston family court was packed. Reporters crowded the hallway, flashes exploded, and a flurry of questions echoed. The story of a remorseful father fighting for custody was national news. Ethan entered the courtroom, his face composed, though tired. By his side was Anya Sharma, carrying a thick binder of documents. Behind them, Lily walked slowly, clutching Ethan's sleeve. Mike Peterson entered, wearing a dark suit, his hair neatly slicked back, a stark contrast to his usual drunken state. He posed for the cameras, playing the part of the grieving, remorseful father. Victor Sloan followed, composed and in control. Judge Elena Morales, 60, with silver hair and a severe face, hit the gavel. This court is in session. Victor Sloan was first to stand. Your Honor, my client, Mr. Mike Peterson, has made mistakes. He allowed alcohol to dominate him. But today he is here, determined to make amends. He wishes to fulfill his duty as a father. Does a father not deserve a second chance? Ethan remained still, hands tightly clenched. The case moved to the witness phase. The judge hit the gavel. Call Lily Peterson. Lily stood up, her legs trembling. She fixed her eyes on Ethan, who nodded slightly, his gaze conveying encouragement. You are not alone. Lily climbed onto the stand. My name is Lily Peterson. The judge asked directly. Lily, who do you want to stay with? Lily looked at Mike. His bloodshot eyes made her shiver. Tears welled up. Then, she turned to Ethan. In that instant, she let go of all hesitation and allowed her heart to speak. I just want to stay with Dad. The word Dad exploded, and the courtroom buzzed. Ethan stood frozen, tears blurring his vision. He had never expected Lily to say those words in public. Victor Sloan immediately jumped up, sharp as a knife. Your Honor, this is just the delusion of a vulnerable child. A wealthy man can easily confuse the emotions of a 7-year-old girl. This is not the truth. This is just an illusion. The judge hammered the gavel. Order! Order in the court. Just as Victor regained his smug expression, a chair scraped loudly from the back of the room. Mrs. Eleanor Vance rose, eyes blazing, holding up a small USB drive. Her voice, harsh but firm, resonated throughout the courtroom. I have evidence and everyone needs to hear it now. The courtroom fell silent. The USB was handed to the court clerk. The speakers came to life. A crackling sound. Then, Mike's hoarse, alcohol-laden voice filled the room. "You're useless, Sarah. How many times have I told you? Get up. Don't fake weakness in front of me." A loud crash followed breaking glass. Then Sarah's weak sobs. "Please, don't do this in front of the child, I beg you." Immediately after, a little girl's voice, clear but terrified, cut through the air. "Please, don't hit my mom. Please don't hit my mom." The courtroom froze. People gasped. Lily fell to her knees, clutching Ethan, tears streaming down her face as she heard her own voice echoing back. Mike's face twisted. He shot up, yelling, "Fake! Fake! It's a setup. That's not my voice." Victor Sloan jumped up behind him, struggling to regain control. "Your Honor, I object. This recording could be manipulated. We demand an immediate forensic analysis." Judge Morales adjusted her glasses, her gaze cold and cutting. She hit the gavel 3 times. "Order! The recording will be examined, but what we have just heard cannot be ignored. Court is recessed until the investigation is complete." As the reporters frantically wrote, 2 police officers stepped forward, handing the court a stack of documents. The gray-haired officer spoke dryly. "We received an internal report. Witnesses and documents confirm that Mr. Victor Sloan accepted bribes and manipulated files to eliminate evidence unfavorable to Mr. Peterson." The courtroom erupted. Victor Sloan froze, his face drained of color. He collapsed into his chair. Anya leaned into Ethan, exhaling slowly. "We still have a chance. The tide is turning." The new beginning, the final hearing was held the next day. The tension in the court was palpable. Judge Morales spoke slowly, every word heavy. After reviewing all evidence testimony and the authenticated recording, this court grants legal custody of Lily Peterson and Finn Peterson to Mr. Ethan Walker. The entire room erupted in murmurs and relief. Lily looked up at Ethan, her voice trembling. "Dad, we don't have to leave, do we?" Ethan hugged her tightly, his voice breaking. "No, sweetie. From now on, we're together." Mike shot up, shouting, "They're mine! You can't steal my kids." Officers immediately restrained him. The judge continued severely. "As for the attorney, Victor Sloan, for accepting bribes and falsifying records, he is permanently disbarred and will face separate trial." Victor collapsed, his career vanishing in a single sentence. Ethan stepped out into the hallway, holding Lily's hand and Finn in his arms. Lily looked up, asking, "Dad, we won't have to be scared anymore, right?" Ethan stroked her hair, his eyes wet. "No, sweetie. From now on, we are safe. I just want to take my children home." That evening, the car drove away from the courthouse. Lily sat in the front seat, her cheeks still tear-streaked, but her first true smile appeared. "Dad, when are we going home?" Ethan gripped the wheel, his eyes red, and answered firmly, "We are on our way home, sweetie." 5 years later, 5 years passed. It was a clear autumn morning in a quiet Massachusetts suburb. Laughter rang out from the porch of a white 2-story house nestled under a line of red glowing maple trees. "Finn, wait up," yelled Lily, now 12, her voice clear and happy, as she chased her younger brother. Finn, now 5, laughed, running circles on the lawn with his school backpack. Ethan stepped out onto the porch, wearing a crisp white shirt, holding a steaming cup of coffee. Time had painted silver streaks in his temples, but his eyes shone brighter than before, the eyes of a man who had truly found his family. "All right, into the car," he said, his tone firm but warm. "If you're late, I'll be the one getting a lecture from the teacher." Finn ran to take his hand. In the car, the 3 sang along to a kid's song on the radio. This tranquil melody, which had seemed unreachable 5 years ago, was now part of Lily's daily life. At school, Lily radiated confidence, greeting her friends with a bright smile. Finn ran into his kindergarten class. "Bye, Dad." "Bye, Lee." That afternoon, Mrs. Eleanor Vance approached. The once severe woman had softened over the years. She carried a basket of freshly baked apple turnovers. "I know the kids love these," she said, placing the basket on the wooden table. Lily ran and hugged her. "Thank you, Mrs. Vance." Mrs. Vance gently stroked the girl's hair, still remembering the dark bruise on Lily's arm and the moment she decided to intervene. Seeing the children's smiles, she knew her decision had been right. Miss Anya Sharma also stopped by, still in her impeccable suit, though her lips now often curved into a smile. She joked, "Ethan, I don't have to be your lawyer anymore. Life's gotten too quiet." Ethan laughed, knowing that without Anya and Mrs. Vance, he might never have kept Lily and Finn. On a Sunday morning, the three of them painted the white fence together. Finn playfully left crooked streaks, giggling. Lily corrected them. Ethan watched, his heart full of warmth. As the sunset gilded the porch, they sat together, eating the apple pie Mrs. Vance had brought. Lily leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder and asked quietly, "Dad, is this really our home?" Ethan looked at the two children, his eyes glowing. "Yes, sweetie. This is our home." 5 years had passed. The old wounds had slowly healed, and this house had truly become a place to return to, a family built not on blood, but on love and justice.